All right, guys, welcome back to the Hardback Life. This is part two, where we're going to go into a little bit more detail on the book Powerless. If you watched our last episode, you know we gave our general thoughts, feelings on the books of this one. And so we're going to go in a little bit more detail for you. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode. We're going to try to condense it quite a bit because Britt's got things to do. So Britt, why don't you go into a little bit more details about the things you liked and didn't like about the book?
Yeah, so I mean, I like her character in itself. It's pretty strong. She's a bit stubborn, but overall, she has a very strong, I don't want to say moral compass, but it's out of self-preservation and for other people, and knowing that all these injustices are happening, and she's like, you know what, this isn't right. So I like the fact that she is smart enough and she
Yeah.
honed these skills to take advantage of these people that were just ruthless and cruel.
Yeah, I like that. The one thing I find interesting, and I don't know if you like picked up on this in the story, is in the beginning, so we find out she's living on the street, right? And she's got her buddy, Adina, which, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
you guys, the novella is from Adina's point of view, because partway through Powerless, she's separated. She's taken to the castle because she's basically being pulled into the trials, right? Because most people volunteer and she's unwillingly put on the list. And so she's separated from Adina. So this book will review what Adina was going through on the streets by herself, because Adina was not scrappy like Peyton. But the one thing is, so when Peyton was young, right, when she was 13 and her father was murdered, okay, she left the house. How come she never like went to check back? She assumed that a family was living in there and all this, when literally the house is sitting vacant this whole time. So
Well,
her
and
and
it's
Adina,
not, and it's not like she wasn't in the area.
yeah, like she could have gone to check on it. Her and Adina did not need to be living on the streets that whole entire time. And it's like,
No,
poor girl, like, did you like she saw people going into that out of the house, but you learn that these were people who were part of like a secret society that were trying to help the ordinaries, and a lot of them were ordinary, and her father was one of those people that was trying to help them and kind of seek justice for them, right? And so these are the people using that place as a home base, like every once in a while. But I'm thinking, girl, why did you not check? Like, what?
well,
It's been what,
she
eight
almost
years?
made herself into more of a martyr.
Yes, yes, she 100% did. She 100% did. And I'm just thinking, girl, I would have been going, I would have been checking, because you are cold. You're sleeping on cobblestone for almost 8 years. You didn't think in it at all to go check the house when you ran scared. And I get why she ran scared, right? She saw her father murdered in front of her. So I totally get her wanting to run away because she's scared. But it's like, now that you know that the threat has passed, why didn't you go check? Hell, why didn't you go steal
Well,
some
and
of your
that's the
clothes
thing. It's
back?
like, is it because she thought like maybe the person who murdered my dad knows about my truth and this and this and that, and if I stay here then they're going to track me down. Did it
Yeah.
have anything to do with that? Well, I don't know, because none of that was mentioned.
And that could have been why she never went back. But you think with how scrappy she is and breaking into places and doing that, she would at least go get her damn clothes, go get some blankets, go get
They
something
could
from her
sneak
old
in
house.
for the night.
It's just, it's crazy. So you guys, she's
But
very scrappy.
she did, but she definitely did create her, like she uh, made her
She could
situation worse than what it really was.
she contributed to her situation 100%, 100%. And of course a 13-year-old's going to be scared, so they're going to do things that are irrational, right? um First, she was rational, running and hiding, right? Because you don't know if this person's looking for you. But over the course of years, like, or why not go back, and see, and get some of your stuff, like considering you're going on roofs, shimmying down chimneys to go steal honey buns and fabric from people. Why wouldn't you go check out the place where you were raised? and you obviously
Yeah.
had stuff there because obviously we learned when she goes back, everything is in the exact same space. The only thing is her dad's dead body's not there. That's literally the only difference. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's like I kind of feel for her,
And
but I'm
with
like,
her being as
oh,
well, and that's the thing with her friend's power to kind
mhm.
of phase through things or whatever, and with her ability to be sneaky and to do what she's doing, why wouldn't you just sneak in and live in your old house?
Yeah, yeah. That was the one thing that got me towards the end of the book. When we find out nobody was living in her childhood home, I was like, oh my gosh. But
Yeah.
that kind of just goes, I guess, to show how scared she was to be found, and to be sought out, but I do like how she kind of like plays off her psychic ability to Kai, being like, oh, it's just so minuscule. Like the psychic, it just comes to me like whenever, so it's not always there and this and that. And she is talking out of her ass like she is a perfect saleswoman. Let me tell you. I mean, it was funny. It was so funny. I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's eating it up. Everyone's eating it up. And all it is it's like the show Psych. Like I said, it's like Sean from Psych, right? She's just like noticing little tiny things and she's piecing it together and she's making assumptions and these assumptions end up being correct. And so everyone truly thinks she's psychic. Well, no, she's just super observant. She notices every minute detail. And I thought that that was
Hmm.
great. So I wonder if Lauren is a fan of the show Psych, because if you've never seen it, Britt, watch it. It's so funny. So funny. But it kind of reminds me of that, right? Because this guy, he was basically his father, who was a detective, like basically taught him the ability of being observant, and he's now so observant that he can literally come off as psychic. It's really funny. But
Yeah.
so this is great. And then reading the book, did you anticipate that there would be a love triangle between Kit, Kai, and Hayden?
I mean, I would say, well, I mean, I guess when it started, I was like, oh gosh, this is going to get really dramatic. I could already tell you what's going to happen. The boys are going to end up like pitting after her
Hmm.
at the end of it all. What I
Yeah.
didn't expect was the shift that it wasn't their father,
Yeah.
but what kills me about storylines like this, right? When you have these they build these relationships and they pour out their secrets or whatever, whereas Kai poured out most of his secrets. The same thing with his brother. They poured out more of their truth than she did to them,
Yeah.
but yet towards the end, rather than explaining what really happened, where I think Kai would understand,
Yeah.
she doesn't say anything to
Hmm.
try to even get his to explain anything to him, because that he would have,
Yeah.
and then they would have been able to talk it out. Now, is that for suspense purposes? Probably, but it just
Yeah.
kills me because you spend so much time building these relationships with people where you feel like they have this understanding of each other, but then you break down their relationship at the end like they really didn't have anything.
Yeah. Well, I think she was scared to open up and be vulnerable with them because in her eyes that if any of them found out the truth, she's going to be executed, right? So this is like the Salem witch trials, right? Like if
But
someone thought you were a witch. So it's like I can see where she would have been scared, but at the end when he sees her, she could have said like he was trying to kill me because I am ordinary and he knew this whole time. Like she could have said something.
yeah, well, not only that
Yeah.
is he had told her that he let ordinaries escape. And he talked
Yes.
about the things that his father forced him to do, like his first kill, which guess who that ended up being, like how what it did to him and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So it's like she knows that he has this spot for seeing this injustice, and
Yeah.
that seed was already just planted there, just waiting for it to do. So I think if she would have been I kind of think in a sense she kind of helped her own demise kind of towards the end
Yeah.
because she wasn't open enough on her end.
Well, and I think like so, which by the way, because obviously this is our like spoiler episode, like you guys, the fact that he's the one that killed her father and she's
Mhm.
personally like blaming him. But also this, let's change it on the flip side is did he even have a choice? No, he
Well,
didn't.
he told her about it.
Huh?
He said, remember back in the day, back when they were talking, and it was the next when they were talking about how all the things that his father did and how he vomited and he couldn't do it, like with that
Yeah.
toll that it took on him. Like
Yeah.
he revealed all these kind of things,
Yeah.
and I feel like it's like if you connected those dots with how observant she is with things,
Mhm.
she should have taken that into consideration. I kind of understand things are heightened, but I
Yeah.
think in a way it was a very selfish preservation martyr aspect again. I think that's the only problem with her. She creates herself to be the martyr
Yeah.
from when she was younger, and she did it again towards the end of the book as well.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, and it's like I was saying, like it, I mean, he was what, 14, and he did not have a choice. He had to do this because it was basically kill or be killed. Because we knew if he would have defied his father, what would have happened, right? And I'm sorry,
He
but
would
when
have
you
just
go into,
got, yeah.
and when you go into that self-preservation mode, especially he's a kid still, right? He's a young teenager,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just in this like he's probably scared and he's doing what he is being told to do, even if he wants to do it or not, because he's being basically brainwashed. Like, hey, this is duty and
Mm-hmm.
honor and blah, blah, blah. Like you're the hand of the king and this and that. And I feel for him, right? Because obviously he didn't want to, but he had to, because they also knew if he didn't do it, then something worse would have happened. So I
Right.
feel like she needs to be a little bit empathetic on that, and he also needs to be a little empathetic on her because at this point, man, she did eye for an eye. He killed her father, she killed his. Y'all even. Let's just
But
water.
he also knew, and that's the thing, he knew how corrupted. I mean, I understand that he's going to feel betrayed because she wasn't honest with him, but he
Yeah,
also know how corrupt his father and how evil he was. And they
yeah,
were starting to really see the truth. And if they would have connected the dots with, oh my gosh, this is really a lie because you've been around me, I'm not diseasing you.
yeah. Well, and that's where I think it's going to be interesting in book two, because in book two, let me read the synopsis here real quick. So Peyton and Kai battle with duty and desire in this highly anticipated second installment in the sizzling and epic romantic fantasy trilogy that's packed with spicy tension and edge of your seat betrayal. The kingdom of Ilya is in turmoil. After surviving the purging trials, ordinary born Peyton Gray has killed the king and kickstarted a resistance throughout the land. Now she's running from the one person she had wanted to run to. Spoiler alert, that's Kai. Kai Azar is now Ilya's enforcer, loyal to his brother Kit, the new king. He has vowed to find Peyton and bring her to Justin because Kit, who honestly in the first book, I thought that the two brothers were going to argue, right? That this was going to be some Hunger Game things if we go back to
Well,
that.
he's very blinded by his love for his father because he had this completely different
Yes.
version of him.
Exactly. So across the deadly scorches and deep in the hostile city of Dor, Kai pursues the one he wishes he didn't have to. But in a city without elites, the balance between the hunter and the hunted shifts, and the battle between duty and desire is deadly. So let's kind of go in a little bit more detail. So in the book, okay, Kai's power is he has the ability to absorb other elites' powers that are near him. Like he doesn't take it from them, right? But he absorbs and gets their gift. But they have to be within a certain range. So now he's in a city where there are no elites. So guess what? Motherfucker don't got any powers. Yeah, he doesn't have anything. So at this
Well, now
point, he is
the tables
ordinary.
have shifted. He's getting a taste of what everybody else has felt this entire time.
Exactly. He's ordinary. He has no advantage. So besides the training, because he did train hand-to-hand combat. So besides that, which a lot of the warriors did, he has no special advantage in this other city. Peyton has the advantage because she grew up on the streets. She is street smart. She knows how to survive outside of the castle and the grounds, and being, having that silver spoon in your mouth. She knows the struggles. He does not. So he is completely going to be out of his element 100%. And for her, it's like a walk in the park is what I'm going to assume is going to happen, right? But it's going to be
Right.
interesting because, obviously in the book, when Kit finds out that Peyton's the one that murdered his father, the king, he's angry at Peyton, and it's like, okay, but why would she kill your father? Like, let's logically think about it for a minute. Why would she kill the king? And how come she was injured and stabbed by the king? Like, you're not putting you're not connecting the dots, Kit. You're really not connecting the dots. Your
Right.
father was a
And why
figure.
you and why would her best friend be where she was when
Exactly. Yeah. Why was Adina there? Like, Kit is not thinking. Like, he kind of mentioned it. He kind of thought about it, or Kit or Kai, I forget which one. They thought about, like, Adina shouldn't have been there because she wasn't a criminal, because the last trial was the person, the elite towards the end, had to kill the criminal. Adina was not a criminal, and all the elites knew it. And yet one of them killed her. And the king put Adina there because he knew that Peyton couldn't kill her, because Adina is like her sister, is her only family left. And the fact that Kit is not thinking about that, like, why was she put here? Because obviously the king put her there. There had to have been a reason. And I feel like he's not going to have his aha moment until towards the end of book 3. That is going to be my prediction. He is not going to have an aha moment. And I think it will be
no, and I think it's going to be the brothers battling against each other, because Kai's going to open his eyes before he does, and then it's going to be this, like, how can you turn your back on me after every, there's going to be this very
I predict that's the way it's going to go. I do feel I feel towards the end of book 2, once again, it's not out, but I feel like it is going to be brother against brother, and I think book 3 is going to be the big battle, right? And I don't think Kit is going to have his aha moment till the end of book 3. And it might take something drastic for him to open his eyes and see that their kingdom is wrong. And I think Kai will notice it in book 2. I think in Reckless, Kai is going to notice it. I think in book 3 is when Kit's going to notice it, if he does. So I mean, I loved the joyful personality of Kit, though, in these books until the last 2 chapters, right? I mean, he's the prince, he's the next in line to be king, but he's so compassionate. He's so loving. He's the polar opposite of his father, he's like what you want as a king. But it takes Peyton killing his dad, and it breaks his spirit, and all of a sudden he's his father. So he's either going to go extreme deep end, or something drastic is going to have to happen for him to, like, come back to reality and earth and open his eyes and see the truth for what it really is, instead of what he interprets it as. So I think that's great. I felt bad for poor Adina. That poor girl did not deserve the torture she went through.
Well, and that's what I was saying earlier, in the first part, was I'm hoping that her story sheds some light into maybe what they found out about her and why she was caught in that situation. Maybe there's more to it. Maybe they found out that she was part of the rebellion or something.
That's what I'm hoping. So I'll do like a little mini episode on that, on the Powerful, and we'll see how that ends up. I'm definitely going to read it before I get Reckless, so that way, in case there is like any overlapping that could go with Reckless that I'm aware of. But yeah, I mean, poor Adina. I mean, having her fingers mangled when she sews and everything, and then being tortured. I mean, and this poor girl, her character is just so loving, and she's so innocent. And for her to be treated that way, you're just kind of like, it pulls on your heartstrings, you're like, why? Why?
Yeah.
And then,
well, and then it comes down to just, how evil the father is his whole thing is very genocidal of getting rid of these people that he felt were beneath him and didn't have any place in the world.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because he lied to all of his citizens, and he said, "Hey, ordinaries are going to get you sick, and then if they get you sick, it's going to strip you of your powers." When that is a complete and utter lie, and he knows
So
it's a
the
lie.
question is I guess here's the thing: is he the one that orchestrated the plague and got people sick intentionally?
No, because remember the plague happened long ago.
But well, I wonder if there's like I guess I should historically like his family history line,
I
like an
mean,
orchestrated kingly.
maybe,
I
maybe.
don't know.
I don't know. All I know is he's a lying bastard. That's all I know. I mean, he's lying to the people. He's lying. And because of this, people are turning, friends and family in, and they're being essentially exiled. And here's the thing, all when they're exiled, they're having to cross this like desert, and they don't survive, but nobody really knows, right? Like we don't know
Yeah.
like they don't survive, but obviously some do, because Peyton and Kai are in another kingdom in the second book. But it's like, how did they get there, right? Like they're banishing them, but I mean, maybe the banishing, these people are actually prospering when they make it to this other kingdom, so maybe it is better. But it's still the hatred, it's still the prejudice, it's the not knowing and understanding, not willing to know and understand, and it was
Yeah.
sad with that one family where they found this one little girl. They always wanted a daughter, and they were all elites. They all had powers, but this one little girl was an ordinary. But you had families like that where they didn't care. They wanted to accept this little girl into their life and love and raise her like the daughter, and here they're being exiled because of that. And it pulls on your heartstrings, because you're like, the king is wanting essentially little kids to die, if you think about it, because he's banishing them, or he's saying go execute them. Most of them
Well,
are
and
executed.
that's what it came down to. He had told him, "You need to go execute this person." He's like, "I'm not going to do this to a child."
Yeah.
I mean, especially when he talks about his, his past experience when he was a
Yeah.
child and what his dad forced him to do. So,
Yeah, because what was she, like 6, 7? Like she was a
yeah,
kid,
it just,
a
yeah,
little
very
kid.
young.
And it makes you, oh, it makes your blood boil, because you have a 7-year-old, and it'd be like, I'm throwing hands. I feel like I'm throwing hands.
Wow.
That's where the mama bear comes out. So I'm happy that the king died. I'm happy that Peyton killed him. I'm also happy for the romance that was building for her and Kai. And it will be so interesting in the next book to see how that is going to develop, right? Because obviously they have feelings for one another. They're
Yeah.
into one another. They have a physical and a mental connection. But are they going to let these events, affect that? Or are they going to find common ground and say, hey, look, I fucked up. You fucked up. We both fucked up. Let's put that aside and let's make a positive change. Let's change the kingdom. Let's get rid of these, outdated laws that are, affecting people that, I mean, they shouldn't even be on the books, right? Ordinary people should be allowed to live and prosper alongside their elite family members and vice versa. Like, let's go and change it. So I really hope that's the direction that we're going, is that Kai and Peyton team up and he joins the rebellion. I really hope he joins the rebellion. So
Well,
that's
I
gonna be
think
my
that
wish.
since he knows all the darkest sides of his dad and what he's really like, and then also,
Mhm.
he doesn't have a warped idea of what is really going on behind the scenes because his brother's just kind of like living in the clouds a lot of the
Oh
time,
yeah.
not really seeing it. And
Ignorance is
I
bliss.
kind of want to know a little bit more like his mother's thoughts. Like, what is her truth in all of this?
I have a feeling she's sadistic. I have a feeling she's sadistic, but we're not going to know until book 2 or 3. So I really think there's something wrong with that lady. Um, because I don't think that she would have stayed with a man who was blatantly that evil, unless she was evil on some level as well.
Yeah,
So
I don't know. I mean, and she may not even be a big character in any of this. I mean, but I guess it will
yeah,
we'll have to see because what if she starts speaking into the ear of his brother and
yeah,
that's where all this kind of
yeah.
like anti-ordinary
I mean, she
is
could have been
coming
the
from.
puppet master for all we know,
Yeah,
you know?
you don't know.
So, because I have a hard time believing that she didn't know her husband's true colors. I have a hard time believing that.
No, I don't think.
You and I, we both know our spouses in and out, you know? We know them in and out.
Yeah.
Like I know Sean's soul. Like I know his personality, I know what he's capable of and not capable of, right? I would assume this woman knows what her husband is and isn't capable of. So I don't think she's innocent in all this. I think she has a part to play, and I think we're definitely going to find out in later books if she actually does or not. I'm leaning towards I think she does, and I think Kit was just the ignorance is bliss, like, ooh, butterfly, type of
Yeah.
personality. So I feel
Well,
like
and
that's how he is.
he had the cushy little, the
Yeah.
cushy childhood. He didn't
Yeah.
have anything. He's never had to do anything like Kai has had to do, so he's very warped in his sense of reality.
Well, and that's because, he was being trained to take over the king aspect of it, of like the paperwork. So think CEO, running the business and all that, versus you've got Kit, who's like the bodyguard, right? Or, the grim reaper of the kingdom per se. So he's the one that is the brutal
Yeah,
axe
Kai.
to the king.
Hmm.
Yes, Kai. So I just it's going to be interesting seeing the dynamic with the brothers in the second book, and it's going to really be interesting to see the dynamic between Peyton and Kai. Now they are alluding to more spice, but who knows? I'm thinking there's just going to be hints of spice, but no actual spiciness in the book. But we will see, and I'm excited for it to come out. I'm excited for the story to continue now that she has said it's a trilogy, because at first it said saga, which saga, it can be any number of books, but now that she said trilogy, we now know. So there's going to be 3 books, and there's one novella so far, maybe another one down the road. We don't know. Um, but I want to know all of your guys' thoughts. If you've read the book, what your thoughts were, where you think the story is going. What are your predictions? I want to get this out there open before the second book comes, and let's see who was right with their predictions. So, because I think there's so many avenues this author could have gone.
No, yeah, and it could be taking a few other little turns unexpectedly. I mean, just like it kind of
Yeah.
did in the first one, so you never really know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up, I do want to just go over a few reviews here because we love reading our Goodread reviews. So one person on Goodreads said, I've read fan fictions written by 12-year-olds on Wattpad with a better plot than this. So I'm reading some of the 1 stars because I'm like, if I wanted to read Hunger Games, I would have just picked that up instead. Once again, this is not Hunger Games. If you truly felt that this book was comparable to Hunger Games, then you truly did not actually read Hunger Games. And you truly did not read this book because besides the trials, they're nothing alike. Nothing.
No,
There is there's no capital, there's no thing like this. The elites is in the elites trials, it's not about everybody killing and there's only one survivor. It's just about one person winning each trial. Now people can die in the trial, but that is not
that
a
comes up to the
requirement.
sadistic mind.
Yeah, it's basically, I mean, think of it like the Olympics. Like it's everyone, they're competing for the gold medal. That's all it is, because somebody wants to win at the end of the day, and they want to be that year's winner, and they get money. It's basically a prize. So for those that are comparing this to Hunger Games, you really do not understand this book, and you really do not understand Hunger Games at all, because they are 100% different. The only commonality is trials. But guess what? Lots of books have trials, not just the Hunger Games. But someone wrote, The Hunger Games did it better. Red Queen even did it better. This author does not have a single original thought in her idea. You are 100% wrong, because this book, and I've read hundreds of books, is not like any other book I've read.
Well, and that goes back into, you can pick out commonalities all day long in every
Exactly.
single book that you read.
Exactly.
So
No.
it's just, it just gets annoying when.
Well, and here's the thing. So 50% of the Goodreads reviews, and there are a total, or sorry, we're going to go based off the ratings. There are 206,542 book reviews. Okay. So 50% gave it a 5-star, 32% gave it a 4-star, 12% 3-star, 2%, or sorry, 3% gave it a 2-star, and then 1% of the readers gave it a 1-star. So if you're hearing people complain about it, there's literally 1%. There is less than 3,000 reviews that gave it 1-star. And these are people that I bet you they DNF'd this book. They did not finish it all the way through, because if they did, they would not be comparing it to those other books. So, I'm going to read just a couple of other reviews here. Slow burn romantic fantasies, only done like this, please. Lauren really, really builds up that slow burn. I will tell you guys, she executes it very well. It is hands down amazing. I'm going to need 5 to 7 business days to digest that ending.
uh,
I agree with that one. I agree with that. The ending, you guys. So Hayden is hiding out in her old house, right? And she's hiding in this spot where she ends up actually kind of climbing up the chimney. So it kind of circles back to the beginning of the book, right? She's back, her ass is back up a chimney. And Kai and other elite warriors are looking for her. And he senses that she's there. And he basically gives her a head start and tells her, like, I'm giving you X amount of time to get out of the city before I come and hunt for you. And that's where the book ends. But I thought it was chef's kiss that it ended the way it began, with her up a chimney. That was fucking brilliant, in my
well,
opinion.
and it's kind of in her whole childhood, growing up, she was seeing his father. In reality, it was really him.
Yeah, and it's because they probably looked alike and she was a kid.
Well, just like what she said, it was the king in my head, it was the king, and that's what she visualized. She had placed that blame on him, so that's what she saw.
Yeah. So, and here's the thing. I'm going to read from the last little bit. As a heavy sigh cuts through my thoughts. He sounds as tired as I feel. It's a good thing you're not here, he says softly, a tone I've never thought I'd hear him say again, because I still haven't found my courage. So, to be honest about his feelings with her. And then my home bursts into flames. So he lights that fucker on fire. And that's gonna get her out, right? That's gonna get her out of the house. But yeah, he's essentially giving her time to get out. He doesn't know for a fact that she's in the house, but he highly suspects that she's in the house. You can tell, but it's brilliant. And it is very weird.
It's very cat and mouse.
It is. Oh yeah. And right now she's the mouse, right? But I have a feeling she'll be the cat and he'll be the mouse in Reckless. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to her, seeing his father being the one to kill her father, I mean, she had childhood trauma. She was 13. It was in the middle of the night, and he looked a lot like his father, so there were definitely similarities. And her, she probably, in her mind, right, she's seeing this traumatic event, she's not thinking it's another teenager killing her father. Her mind goes to adult, and so that's where she's like, the king killed my father. Like, his eyes, I remember the color of his eyes, the color of his hair, I remember this, I remember that. Well, Kai has those same attributes, and so your mind plays tricks on you when you experience severe trauma like that, and so I think that's what her mind did to her, is it tricked her into that. And now that she knows the truth, it's like, okay, now she can see it vividly and clearly in her mind. Now she's had that aha moment. And it's going to be interesting to see how it progresses. And I do have a feeling at the end of the trilogy, they will be together. So I'm just going to say that now. I do feel they'll be together.
Hopefully.
So I do feel that's the road it's going down, but we won't know for sure. But
I'm over here. I'm like talking to you, and I'm here at the school picking up my child, and I don't know where she is.
all right. Well, how about you go find your child? If not, I will text her that her fairy godmother is looking for her. And we will meet up a couple more days and we're going to talk about A Fate Inked in Blood is going to be the next book we're going to discuss. We're going to give you guys our thoughts, feelings, and then go into detail for that book. We'll go in more detail for that book versus Powerless because Fate Inked in Blood is, there's a lot to go over. So, but thank you guys for joining us.